Welcome to the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel. I'm your host, ArmaniTalks. In this channel, I'm covering communication skills for you to level up your way with words and become much more articulate. If you're new to this channel, welcome aboard. Every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'm dropping brand new videos on topics such as public speaking, social skills, emotional intelligence, and much more. Join the tribe by hitting that subscribe button right on below. Hit that bell notification and never miss another video again. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. And be sure to drop that like on your way in. In today's episode, we're going to be breaking down a tweet that I wrote on Twitter called Signs of a Boring Person. And by the way, if you don't follow me on Twitter, go on and check me out over there. I post daily tweets on a variety of topics ranging from mindset to communication skills. My Twitter handle is @ArmaniTalks. So without further ado, let's just get started. The first sign of a boring person is someone who is monotone. Your voice is a lot like an instrument. Imagine you go to a concert and the person that you are paying to watch pulls out their guitar and they're just strumming one string for the entire concert. You're going to want your money back because this guy clearly does not understand how to utilize this instrument. Likewise, your voice is a blend of a flute and a violin, which means that it's an instrument. You need to learn how to play it. A lot of individuals with monotone voices have no clue that they have a monotone voice. So if you're aware, that's a good problem to have. Now the thing is, what do I do about it? There's a lot of different exercises out there, but one of the most beginner-friendly ones is to get a book, read it out loud, try to breathe life into the words, and record yourself. And once you're done recording yourself, you gotta do the hardest thing of them all. You gotta listen to your voice on tape. This is going to feel uncomfortable because your body does not like listening to yourself on tape. Immediately, you're gonna be like, who is that? That's me? I sound like that? Which is a good problem to have. Your nervous system is gathering the data and it's keeping what it finds pleasant and it's making a note of what it finds unpleasant. And if you keep up with this exercise for a long period of time, eventually the monotone voice will begin to melt away. The next sign of a boring person is someone who yawns a lot. When you're yawning a lot, what happens is that it's a toxic act. Even if you're tired and you're yawning around people that you've known for a while, then that's whatever. But if you're trying to make a first impression on someone who's never met you before and you're over here yawning left and right, this other person, their mirror neurons are getting activated and they are feeling tired as well. It doesn't matter how much coffee and Red Bull that they had beforehand. Mirror neurons can overpower the strongest caffeine of them all. So you yawning is making them tired. Once you leave the interaction, they're going to associate that tired, draining feeling with you, and that is a sign of being boring. The next one is just answers questions, but doesn't ask them. And this can at times be an honest mistake. If you're someone who's very shy, then you're probably feeling uncomfortable simply being in an interaction. And since you're feeling uncomfortable, your mind is running faster than it usually does. And when the mind is running so fast, it's difficult to think of questions to ask. So this other individual is asking you all these questions and you're just blurting out the answers and you're just hoping that the interaction ends, or they understand that you're nervous. But in a lot of situations, they don't get the perception that you're nervous. You got to realize most people have no clue how to read body language. Rather than thinking that you're nervous, they either view you as being standoffish or they find you boring. So it doesn't matter how nervous you are. You got to take some effort in asking questions back. And if you have no clue what to ask back, literally just be like, what do you think? just ask them the same question that they asked you. Rarely laughs. This is something that requires judgment, because if you're laughing way too much at stuff that they're saying when they're not even trying to tell a joke, then you come off as a people pleaser or a nice guy. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, they're doing their best to loosen up the environment, and you're looking at them like where they have to earn your laugh. This ruins the other person's spirit. They don't want to now tell jokes around you because they feel as though they're just gonna get shot down. So this is one of those judgment games where you want to first spot that they're trying to tell a joke. A lot of individuals never laugh because they have no clue about the other person's intent of trying to loosen up the scenario. So you gotta know when someone is trying to tell a joke. And you could tell if you just notice certain pattern interrupts or certain efforts where they're at least chuckling a little bit from what they're saying. They're trying to get that same reaction out of you. And from there, it's a game of doing your best to balance. You don't just want to be giggling away, but you want to every now and then insert a laugh to acknowledge that this person's joke is being received. So that's a proper way to behave from my experience. Takes too long to respond. This is also one of those things where it could be registered in the incorrect way. A lot of individuals who take a long time to respond, they're highly well thought out. There are people who read a lot of books, watch a lot of documentaries, travel a lot. So they put a lot of thought behind every word. And this is one of those situations where you may be well thought out, but when you're over here making the other person wait a long time for a response, their subconscious mind is viewing you as boring. Unless they know you, of course. But if this is one of those first interactions, it's best to try to speed it up a little bit. You don't have to think about every single word. I try to spit it out. Only talks about their interests. This is something that you need to watch out if you have a hobby. If you have a hobby or a passion, it's very easy to assume that this other person shares the same exact hobby and passion. And I've seen people like this where they love Bitcoin and NFTs, and they'll just talk about it non-stop in a group interaction. And within this group interaction, what happens is that only one person from the group also cares for Bitcoin and NFTs. So it's now just turning into this conversation while all these other people are just over here twiddling their thumbs. It's important to understand the context that you're in. So try to see what other people's interests are as well. That doesn't mean that you don't talk about your own interests, but just avoid over talking about it. Can't remember the last time they traveled. The ability to travel automatically makes you an interesting person. The reason why is because you develop perspective. And it could be anywhere. It could be to a new place in your own town. There's a thing called staycations where people stay in their town, but they rent out an Airbnb into a new part of their town that they've never been to. And they start to perceive life from a completely different way. Other times, you can ditch staycations and leave town. But the more that you travel, whether it's nationally and internationally, the more that you build your perspective, which allows you to talk about a wide range of topics, which brings me to the final trait of a boring person. I can't remember the last time they read. And this is going to be a pretty polarizing one because nowadays, most individuals don't read books. If you go to most, let's say you were born in the 90s, 1990 to 1991, and you go to your friend circle and you're like, when's the last time you read a book? A lot of them are going to be like, probably in high school. If you're talking about from beginning to end, high school, maybe freshman year in college. That means for over a decade, they have not read. And I heard this unique quote one time that said, people who do not read put a lot of bias towards their own experiences. And if you're someone who only puts bias towards your experiences, then your perspective is reduced. And the reduced perspective limits your adaptability in different social situations. Therefore, I'm one of the firm believers that you should read a book from beginning to end. You don't just skim a book. You don't just peruse through it. You finish it from beginning to end, because each book changes you at a fundamental level, and each book allows you to be much more interesting. So these were a few of the signs of a boring person. I did my best to give some fixes along with the signs. Assess yourself. Are you someone who considers yourself boring? Do other people consider you boring? Do you know boring people? Simply making yourself aware of an empowering personality versus a boring personality allows you to be hyper aware on how to carry yourself like a charismatic winner. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop that like for me right on below. Each like helps me out tremendously, and I will catch you on the next episode of the Armani Talks YouTube channel.